Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday night Anamkara meditation program. With all my heart, with all my love, I welcome you to our program tonight. We're going to be talking a bit about one of my favorite forms of the divine feminine, and especially in the Buddhist tradition, Tarama. So we're going to be talking a bit about Tara. And the practices we've often done of the Tara mantra, especially the green Tara mantra, and we've also done the red Tara mantra. Om Tare Tuttare Soha is the red Tara mantra. The green Tara mantra, Om Tare Tuttare Ture Soha, an invocation of her sublime nature, right? And the potency of that throb of her nature coming in through mantra. And I often say that the meaning of mantra is not the most important thing, because it's not. It's the throb of the infinite, the sound form of the infinite that conveys the full experience, the consciousness, the presence of what that mantra really is referring to. But it can be helpful to know that, like Om Namah Shivaya means Om, the primordial mantra, Nama, I bow to, Shivaya, Shiva, the auspicious one. Well, that gives the mind something to play with, but we don't want to get it caught up in the meaning. But same is true, there's meaning to the Om Tare Tuttare Soha, or the Om Tare Tuttare Ture Soha, similar. Om is this primordial mantra. It's often described in sort of Sanskrit literature and mantra. We'll call on Om as they'll call it the nail. It's like it drives the Shakti, because Om is that primordial, the infinite taking sound form. It's said that the mantra Om encompasses all the sounds of the Sanskrit alphabet, which means all of creation. Right? Because that represents all of creation. So Om, not a particular meaning, just the throb of the infinite to open the door to that consciousness and infuse the whole mantra with that power. Om Tare Tuttare Ture Soha. Om Tare. Tare is a form of Tara, it's the name form, and it's like an active form of that. So Tara can mean like the brilliant star. Also means the liberator, the savioress, the one who comes to save us from all suffering. So Om Tare, it's like she's active. Tuttare often is referring to the supreme joy, what we would call in the yogic system Ananda, this supreme bliss. It's her blissful nature, loving, compassionate, blissful, all inseparable, these qualities. Om Tare, Tuttare, Ture, it means swift, like quick. So she's quick to respond. That's why she's often also depicted with one foot forward in her statues and tankas, because she's swift to respond. Right? So it's conveying that sense that her presence is so immediate, and she is so completely dedicated to removing the suffering of all beings and hearing the cries of suffering of all beings, that she leaps to that. So when we're calling upon it, we know we're not calling, some far away, distant deity. This is really to be known as the face of your own sublime self. The face of yourself. We often think of it as the feminine face of the divine, because it's that feminine, caring, loving, related connectedness that we so desperately need in this disconnected, alienated, separate world. So calling on the Divine Mother in various ways is so critical. We're going to do a silent one-day meditation retreat virtually on December 12th. And December 12th also just so happens to be the feast day of another manifestation of Tarama, the Great Mother, Mother Mary, but this is Our Lady of Guadalupe. Our Lady of Guadalupe. Feast day, December 12th, just coincidentally, which just means it was all the divine plan, that the retreat will fall on that day. And actually in in the story of Our Lady of Guadalupe, you know, there's a significant meaning to why and to whom she manifested. It wasn't to, you know, in the context of dogma or religion or anything. It was from the pure heart, the pure devotion of a peasant seeking his mother. So that's a message to us, to approach with that sort of humility, that devotion, that love. So I'm going to be reading some about Tara practices in a more conventional form, but don't let conventional forms get in the way. You know, it's about the heart. It's about the devotion. It's about the love. That's what it is. That's why Ryokan, great Zen Buddhist, said, if you want to know about Buddhism, it's all in the heart. It's this devotion. Right? That's what draws us close. That's the heart of all mystic traditions. No different here. So this, I'm going to be reading some from a relatively recent book that was put out. Actually, it was or featured some of it in e-newsletter. And it's Tara, the Liberating Power of the Female Buddha, by Rachel Wooten. It's put out by Sounds True. And she is a Jungian. And, you know, I don't know her personally, though I'm trained in Jungian work. So she brings sort of a Jungian understanding to how she's engaged personally in Tara practices and is explaining it here in this book. So she's writing here about the origins of Tara. She writes, always in the body of a woman. Tara is ineffable, unknowable, the deepest mystery. Yet when you call out to her for assistance, she appears. Tara manifests as the inner state of calm and repose, of clarity and purpose, of wisdom and compassion. She manifests in outer events through every form of material existence. Tara manifests in you, around you, and through you. I would add, as you. Tara. She's the Shakti. The whole Tara tradition grew out of the Tantra tradition and the Devi, Kali and the Devis from the Hindu tradition. That's her root, right? Sri Guru writes, Tara emerged at the end of the 6th century and the early 7th century India as part of the evolution of Hindu and Buddhist Tantra. While the term Tantra has been broadly misappropriated to refer to the sexual practices of Buddhism and Hinduism, it more accurately describes any practice or teaching derived from the text known as the Tantras. The first female Buddhist images, including Tara, appear in Tantric Buddhism. The emphasis shifted to include devotional practices alongside the more intellectual or analytic ones. The idea also arose in Tantric teachings that mistreating women was a major downfall for a practitioner. So you can imagine, you know, how stultifying the patriarchal, male-dominated mode of being was back then. I mean, continues to be, but was brutally so in so many ways back then. Well, continues to be so in so many ways today. So, according to the scholar Martin Klaff, the concept of asking for help in Buddhism begins with Tara and other tantric deities. So asking, you know, relating. Hey, I'm in need. Let me relate. And it's not just this abstract Buddha mind. We're reaching out from where we are. We always begin where we are. The Tara Tantra appears in Tibetan Buddhist canon as part of the foundational collection of texts and their origins in India. Some teachings in the tradition maintain that the Tantras are the words of the historical Buddha. even though it is widely known that Tantra did not emerge in India until hundreds of years after his death. That was his physical death. The understanding of what arose from Buddha wasn't based on his physical presence. Establishing the precise origin and authorship of Buddhist tantras is not possible. However, it is clear from the teachings and practices that many Hindu and Buddhist tantras share common sources. Other influences were shamanic practices and the worship of the mother goddess. According to scholar Martin Wilson, many attributes of Tara are in fact borrowed from Brahmanical forms of the mother goddess, especially Durga, whose cult was already well established. Nevertheless, the root text of all Tara practices is the Tara Tantra, and her practice is a tantric one. Widely loved as the protectress from all fears, she is often called the mother of all Buddhas. Tibetans pray to her directly for help. Innumerable stories have been recorded over the centuries, continuing to this day, about Tara's miraculous interventions. Mother of all Buddhas. That's why she's also what we recognize from the Heart Sutra, the Prajna Paramita, the mother of all Buddhas, that transcendental, unbelievable, unconceptual awareness, beyond all thoughts, all forms, all skandhas, everything. That's where you start to get to the root of Tara, beyond forms, beyond concepts, beyond even images of a feminine or masculine. Alongside countless stories of Tara's activities, there are two commonly told legends about her origins. One story centers on a remarkable woman who lived in another realm, much like our current world, but in a time and place long before the Buddha of our age. And the other legend recounts the mystical journey of a bodhisattva, a being on the path to Buddhahood, who hoped to be free all beings trapped in the underworld from their intense sufferings. The most well-known account of Tara's origin was recorded in a book written by the 17th century historian Taranatha. The tale of the Princess Wisdom Moon bridges our mundane world with mysterious realms in which miraculous events occur. The teachings revealed in the story have offered hope and meaning to women and men through the centuries down to our present time. And so this is that story, the story of Wisdom Moon. Now, once upon a time, a beginningless time ago, in a world called multicolored light, a young princess, Yeshe-dawa, or Wisdom Moon, attracted the attention of some monks. They noticed that her devotion and boundless offerings to the Buddha of their age, drum sound, had opened her heart to bodhicitta, Buddha mind, pure Buddha mind, with a mind of enlightenment, with the motivation to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. These monks wondered amongst themselves, how can she progress on the path of awakening? They were surprised by her accomplishments, as they thought that a woman could not reach enlightenment. They approached Wisdom Moon, confident in the good advice they planned to offer her. They said, "You should transform yourself into a man in this very moment, or pray to be reborn as a man in your next lifetime. Surely then you will instantly attain enlightenment." Wisdom Moon, being unusually kind and wise for her age, took a deep breath and paused. Then she reminded the monks of the central tenet of Buddhism. Ultimate reality has no such distinctions as self or other, male or female. She went on to say, obviously many of you are willing to work for enlightenment in a male body. It is very rare that people follow this path as a woman. Then with courage and clarity she vowed, I will achieve enlightenment only in a female form. And as a woman, I will also work continuously to free sentient beings from suffering. With her heartfelt vows and brave words, Wisdom Moon illuminated the monk's ignorance of the Buddhist teachings. Eons passed as she continued to teach and liberate millions of beings. Not only did Tara become a Buddha herself, she became known as the mother of all Buddhas. From that long ago time, all the way up to our current time. Now, this is another story of her origin. And it's called the story of Avalokiteshwaras' tears. There was a time when the great Bodhisattva of compassion, Avalokiteshvara, made a vow to free all sentient beings from the lower realms of existence. And in a moment of high energy and great confidence, he vowed before all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas that he would work endlessly until all beings had finally been liberated. He proclaimed, "If I should hesitate in this task for even a moment, then let me shatter into 1,000 pieces." Having set his intention, he began to work with great vigor. And with that amazing force that he had generated, he felt tremendous joy as he freed one sentient being after another. Then he turned his gaze and looked behind him. When he saw innumerable other beings falling into the lower realms where they experienced great suffering, he hesitated for just an instant. Just for an instant, gave up. And according to his vow, he shattered into countless fragments. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who had witnessed his vow and his great effort gathered all the tiny pieces and put them together again. After Avalokiteshvara was made whole again, he wept profusely. His tears formed a pool in which a beautiful lotus flower blossomed. Tara arose from its open center, a Buddha herself, the goddess of compassion. From that time forward, Avalokiteshvara had 1,000 arms, many faces, and limitless power to liberate all beings. And he now realized that he had a companion, Tara, dedicated to the same efforts as he. So Wooten writes, the classic interpretation of this well-known narrative is that Tara sprang fully formed from Avalokiteshvara's fears, that she was born from the tears of his compassion. I find it more likely that his ordeal shattered his former approach to life, trying to accomplish an impossible task alone with the sheer force of his hard work. His grief over his limitation in the face of ongoing and unending suffering broke him open to another reality embodied in a female Buddha. He is not alone. He can rely on Tara's feminine wisdom and ask for her help in his future efforts. It's a Jungian interpretation of that, okay? Now when we come to practices and making use of the Tara mantra, there's a whole set of kinds of ritual and traditional conventional practices that one might do. And that's not to say that, like the peasant approaching Mother Mary and having her reveal herself to him and him receiving her blessings, that we can't just approach with that purity of heart and that humility and devotion. Rituals do have a place. They help the mind get focused. Right? They help the mind sort of gather its energies, almost like a magnifying glass that gathers all the energy of the sun to a point and makes it that much more potent. So rituals and practices can help to do that for the mind. Gather our energies in that way. The heart, the fullness of heart. already there. It's already there. So when we bring up that devotion, it just fills our being. It is our being. So they can work together. The rituals, the practices, empowered, a living presence in our hearts. So Wooten writes, so you can begin your practice by bringing to mind an image of boundless space, the sky over the ocean or the desert or the night sky filled with stars. This vast space represents the realm where all beings and all material things pre-exist as potential, as energies that have not yet come into form. Tara's enlightened consciousness is like infinite space, containing the unlimited possibilities of all creation. Yet when you call out to her, she manifests in form in order to meet you in this realm and respond to your deepest needs. Invite Green Tara to join you by imagining that she appears in front of you in a subtle body of green light, seated on her lotus throne. A cushion in the color and shape of the full moon rests in the center of an open, many-petaled lotus. Rays of healing light radiate toward you from her heart and her whole being. Her penetrating gaze overflows with compassion and wisdom. She dresses in rainbow silks, magical fabric so fine that it could be folded into the palm of your hand. A crown rests on her head. Her body is adorned with jewels that represent her experiences over incalculable lifetimes. Green Tara sits with her left leg bent in a meditation pose. Her right foot is extended, indicating that she is ready to spring into action on your behalf. Her left hand forms the mudra, or gesture, of refuge. Her thumb and ring finger create a small circle in front of her heart, symbolizing the union of wisdom and compassion. Her other three fingers float gracefully skyward, representing the three jewels: the Buddha, enlightened consciousness; the Dharma, the Buddhist teachings; right? And the Sangha, the practicing spiritual community. The simple gesture reminds you of the interrelatedness of all aspects of being: enlightened consciousness, the teachings, the teachers, the communities of friends and supporters, and innumerable sentient beings all rest in Tara's heart. You awaken to the truth that you are never alone. Tara's right hand is open, palm and fingers pointing downward, resting on her right knee, which is the mudra of supreme giving. It's the Varada mudra. Remember, we spoke about that when we were talking about Navratri and the 9 nights of the Devi, and how many of her forms have Varada mudra, bestowing blessings. This gesture means that she gives you everything, including complete enlightenment. Practitioners have visualized Tara's body in this way for more than a millennium. Her posture emphasizes the balance between action and meditation, between giving and receiving. Her hand at her heart reminds you that all aspects of your life, whether active or restorative, find refuge in Tara's limitless compassion. You simply have to remember her and ask for her assistance. She is your own self. She is never far. Even if you can't visualize her, she's there. Her presence. Know that. Even when we're lost in the mind, in the forest of thoughts, emotions, suffering, whatever it might be, she is there, illuminating all, ready to be reached out to at any time. She is your enlightened nature. The many images of Tara found in the Buddhist tradition exist to aid in visualizing her. Use the image on the cover, he's talking about, or the jacket flap of this book for a purpose, or find an image of green Tara that you love online, print it out, or find a statue of Tara that speaks to you. A number of my students have been surprised to come upon statues of Tara that call to them immediately. So we're reaching out. This is what we were talking about last time, about how we give the mind things, these objects, what we feel as sacred objects, because they're invoking our higher nature. And so we can have the mind let go of its attachment to all its ordinary activities, because now there's this numinous, luminous presence in this image, this statue, this form, this mantra. And then as we begin the practice, this particular practice, he says, then say out loud or silently. You're invoking this. For all of these beings, with all these beings, I take refuge in Tara's completely awakened consciousness. In the wisdom teachings from all traditions and in the communities of spiritual practitioners around the world who have in the past and are here now longing for awakening. So that kind of invocation connects us to the living presence that is also awake and being sought by beings throughout creation. Then we're also generating bodhicitta, the awakened heart-mind. And we do this by saying, through the practice of giving and the other perfections, may I reach full enlightenment in order to be of benefit to all beings. So bodhicitta, part of that is that boundless compassion. We're not doing this just to feel good and get some relief for our own mind. We're doing it for the benefit of all. That immediately also aligns us with our highest nature. Our highest nature, Buddha nature, Tara nature, Ma, wants to free all beings, wants to relieve the suffering of all beings. So to enter her presence is to enter that current that's just bathing all beings with that graceful intent to get free, completely free. And then there's an invocation of the four immeasurables. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from sorrow and the causes of sorrow. May all beings never be separated from the sacred happiness which is sorrowless. And may all beings live in equanimity, without attachment for those we hold close, or aversion for those we hold at a distance, and live, believing in the equality of all that lives. So we're invoking through these kinds of ritual invocations our highest nature, our Tara nature, mother of all Buddhas. Remember, you're Buddha. She is your mother. She gives birth to your self, your enlightened self, and your limited self. For these are one. And then we merge through the use of mantra. Right? Then we enter the vehicle of Tara's grace. And for the green Tara practice, Tare Tuttare Ture Soha. So we're going to be chanting that mantra now for a while. And however you approach her sublime presence, however you reach out to the Great Mother, that's her essential nature. We may dress her up in shimmering green light and the beautiful and graceful form of green Tara. We may dress her in red form as red Tara, or the blue form as black Tara, or as a yantra for Kali Ma. These are the same energy. These are all that loving, boundless, compassionate one leaping forward to set us free in the moment and eternally. So now we'll chant Tare Tuttare Ture Soha, and chanting it with the awareness. What awareness? I am Tara. Tarama is me. Her boundless compassion, her boundless love, her boundless wisdom. That's you. Be flooded with that. And you flood the world with that. Om Tare Tuttare Ture Soha. 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 Taking refuge in the Great Mother, Tarama. Rest in her divine embrace. we end with this prayer. May all our practices truly benefit everyone, and may all beings know complete freedom from suffering. Namaste. Soha. Soha. The same as in Sanskrit, swaha. So mote it be. So may it be. That prayer of compassion, that too. That's Tara. That's the Great Mother, wanting all to be free of suffering. This is Tara's prayer. This is from Kali's Bazaar. Tara's prayer. Many pains, one cause. Many clouds, one sky. Many egos, one self. Many struggles, one release. Many shadows, one light. Many bonds, one freedom. Many cloths, one weaver. Many ages, one eternity. Many passions, one love. Many sufferers, one cry for compassion, patience, and love. O beloved Tara, answering the cry. Let us serve till all are free. That longing is Tara. That love is Tara. That leaping up in our hearts to free others from suffering, to respond to others in pain. That's our highest nature. So we call on her now, especially at this time, when there's so much suffering in the world. This is the time for the return of the Great Mother, the return of the goddess in all her forms. The alienated, disconnected, masculine patriarchy has made such a mess. Guys, we've made such a mess. We need the Great Mother. Come, save us. So keep coming back to that love, that compassion. And it rises in your heart in however way it does for you. Whatever that image, whatever that sense of that is. It doesn't have to be a prescribed image, a prescribed picture, a prescribed statue. Oh, it's that inspiration. It's that love, that connectedness, that lets us know there's just one. It goes beyond connectedness. There's unity. We're one. The suffering of all is our own suffering. So let us all be free and revel in that boundless joy, the boundless compassion, the boundless wisdom and love, the strength and equanimity that are our true nature. And then walk that into the world. So thank you. Thank you for coming this evening. Thank you for bringing your divine presence. Thank you for being ones who cultivate this consciousness so that you can walk it into the world. Walk your love, your compassion, your wisdom, your grace into your world, your relationships, your life. Thank you. Thank you.